the hardest lesson. The Centurion flagship Star Weaver emerged from hyperspace at the outer edge of Earth's solar system, its hull of crystalline alloys refracting sunlight into 1,000 dancing rainbows. Ambassador Relon stood upon the primary observation deck, peering through the panoramic viewport. Beyond lay the quiet darkness of space and, ahead, the distant shimmer of a yellow star and its planets. Relon's iridescent scales shifted color, from the navy hue of curiosity to a subtle greenish tint of apprehension. He participated in countless first-contact missions over 3 centuries of diplomatic service, forging peace between a myriad of species. Yet something about this particular world, Earth, triggered a sense of unease he couldn't explain. According to the Galactic Council's archives, Earth's inhabitants were humans, a relatively young, emerging civilization. The Council believed they stood on the cusp of joining the interstellar community. If so, this would be a routine contact, show goodwill, offer guidance, integrate them gently into the fold. But the starship's sensors whispered contradictions. "Ambassador, we have anomalies," said Tekler, the ship's chief science officer. She hovered at her console, her tentacles twitching with mild alarm. "The human's technological profile is inconsistent." Relon drifted closer, feeling the tension coil in his secondary hearts. "Explain." Tekler adjusted the holographic interface. "They use primitive fossil fuels in some regions, yet there's evidence of localized antimatter containment fields elsewhere. Their cities have basic electrical grids side by side, with quantum entanglement communication relays. It's as though they're mixing advanced and outdated technologies deliberately." That made no sense. Civilizations generally progressed along recognizable trajectories, discarding older tech as they advanced. "Perhaps an uneven development curve," Relon said, though his scales darkened with doubt. "We'll know more once we land." The Starweaver glided inward. Soon, the scanners detected Earth's response, remarkably immediate for a world supposedly less advanced. Even more perplexing, Earth's authorities provided landing coordinates in a region called Nevada, perfectly attuned to Centurion environmental preferences. Relon suspected a trap, or, at least, a carefully staged scenario. As the ship approached Earth's atmosphere, both Tekler and Relon noted anomalies stacking higher. If Earth truly lacked advanced star flight, how did they know the Starweaver's specs? Why was no global panic visible? Only 3 human representatives awaited in a remote desert area, standing calmly in the scorching sun. "I don't like this," Tekler muttered. "No media, no crowds, no military show of force. Just 3 humans waiting as if they expected us for centuries." Yet they had come too far to retreat now. Relon composed himself. The ramp lowered onto sandy ground. He prepared a well-practiced speech on mutual respect and peaceful exchange. His words, however, never left his mouth. A human stepped forward, a woman with calm, dark eyes and a warm smile. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Relon," she said in perfect Centurion, her accent flawless. Relon's shock registered in shifting scales. They knew his language. She continued, "I am Dr. Emily Chen, Earth's diplomatic liaison. I trust your journey through the Orion Spur was pleasant. Solar winds this season can be quite turbulent." Relon's mind reeled. How did they know his route, or the conditions in distant star sectors? He managed a polite nod. "You speak our language and know our star charts?" Dr. Chen gave a gentle nod. "We find it helpful to be well prepared." Behind her stood 2 others, a man introduced as Dr. James Martinez, a technological advisor, and a woman, General Sarah Williams, who wore simple attire yet radiated an air of ancient authority. "Shall we go inside?" Dr. Chen invited. "We've arranged a facility at conditions optimal for Centurions." Though you may find our technology eclectic, we trust you be comfortable. Relwan and Tekler exchanged baffled glances. Reluctantly they followed. The structure they entered looked like a plain concrete building, opened by a mechanical handle. Inside, however, the atmosphere was precisely calibrated to centurion lungs, and chairs of simple metal adjusted themselves magically to support their physiology. Dr. Chen offered refreshments. Not just any drink, but a traditional centurion welcoming beverage, something they never shared with outsiders, and human coffee, a human staple, both served at exact temperature. Tekler's tentacles coiled. How can you know to synthesize Trialander, our ceremonial drink? The male advisor, Dr. Martinez, smiled wryly. We're adept at figuring things out, he said. Coffee might suit you as well. A bit strong, but enlightening. Relwan tasted the coffee. Oddly pleasant. The mug, seemingly ceramic, maintained perfect warmth. Every detail screamed hidden sophistication. The humans were not what they seemed. Relwan steadied himself. You know about us, our drink, our route. This is quite the reception. Dr. Chen folded her hands. We thought it best not to overwhelm you at first. You have questions, ask them. Tekler spoke first. Your technology, fossil fuels alongside antimatter, simple grids next to quantum relays. Why such a patchwork? Dr. Chen's smile carried a hint of melancholy. Because true wisdom is not found in having the most advanced solution, but in knowing when not to use it. We maintain older technologies as reminders, checks on ourselves. Every piece, old or new, serves a lesson we learned long ago. Ambassador Rellan's scales flickered with confusion. Lessons from what? Before Dr. Chen could reply, alarm sounded. The humans consulted small wrist devices that projected advanced holograms. General Williams' face hardened. Raiders, she said. Criction ships dropping from hyperspace near Earth. They believe us vulnerable. A chill ran through Relwan. He knew the Criction. Brutal raiders who targeted weak worlds. Earth seemed a perfect victim at first glance. Yet Dr. Chen's eyes flashed with confidence. Would you like to see humanity's true capabilities, Ambassador? They ushered Relwan and Tekler into another chamber. There, the walls melted from concrete to reveal a high-tech command center surpassing the Starweaver's bridge. Screens tracked the incoming raiders. The human operators tapped controls, some mechanical keys, some quantum interfaces, and the raider vessels simply froze in space. No explosions, no battle. Space-time around them had been manipulated, holding them harmlessly in stasis. Relwan gasped. You control space-time fields effortlessly. Yet you burn fossil fuels in your cities? Dr. Martinez chuckled. It's not about can or can't. It's about choosing not to rely solely on our might. We prefer subtlety, guidance. General Williams nodded. These raiders will awaken tomorrow with no memory of this event, only a subtle shift in perspective that aggression is futile. We rarely resort to violence. Understanding is more effective. Tekler could barely process this. You're capable of godlike power, but you hide it behind a facade of primitivism. Why? Dr. Chen's expression turned serious. Because we learned the hard way that raw power without wisdom leads to ruin. We advanced long ago, millions of years, in fact. We soared to godhood, fought wars that scarred galaxies, and nearly annihilated ourselves. Eventually, we realized true advancement comes not from dominating others, but from helping them grow. Rellan's world spun. Humans had been spacefarers millions of years ago? The Council had no record of that. If you've been here all along, guiding from the shadows, why reveal yourselves now? Dr. Chen gestured, and the screen showed a distant void between galaxies, a spreading darkness. Something old and dangerous stirs. We must prepare all civilizations to face it. We can't hide anymore. The galaxy must learn what we learned. Technology and power are meaningless without moral restraint. Back at Centurion space, archaeologists uncovered artifacts predating known civilizations. Human-made, millions of years old, confirming the impossible truths Relon now witnessed firsthand. Dr. Vexna, the archaeologist, reported her findings, adding to the storm of revelations spreading through the galaxy. You're orchestrating this, Relon realized. Planting evidence, guiding discoveries. Dr. Chen nodded. We've nudged civilizations onto stable paths, whispering in your collective ears through odd breakthroughs and peaceful resolutions. Now you must face a final lesson. The Void Heralds, who offer perfection without understanding. We faced them eons ago. They represent what happens if you embrace power without wisdom. General Williams turned toward a map of galaxies. We didn't want to appear as saviors or conquerors. We wanted you to reach your own understanding, so that when the darkness approached, you'd choose growth over surrender. Now you see why we blend old and new tech. It's a reminder that no matter how advanced you become, you must never forget the journey, the humility. Across Earth, once hidden complexes revealed themselves. Species from across known space arrived, drawn by rumors, archaeological finds, and subtle invitations. They saw humans dismantling the Crixian raider threat without violence, halting a war before it began. They witnessed humans explaining fundamental truths via simple devices. A steam engine no longer was just a primitive machine. In its piston-driven motion lay encoded cosmological principles. An internal combustion engine's timed ignitions illustrated the delicate interplay of chaos and order that governed interstellar relations. In a cosmic classroom spanning thousands of worlds, the humans taught. The strongest civilization is not the one that can kill a star with a thought, but the one that chooses not to. Relon tried to reconcile this with everything he knew. Our council believed us enlightened. We ended wars, built alliances. Yet we pursued ever greater power. Now I see we never truly questioned if that power was necessary. Dr. Martinez offered a gentle grin. Now you will. And as you do, you'll help others do the same. The Void Heralds approached as a final test. They offered perfection, frozen, unchanging perfection. But civilizations now understood humanity's message. They banded together not in military alliances, but in shared understanding. The Herald's message of, "Join us in perfection," fell on ears that now knew perfection was a trap. Imperfection, growth, learning, and moral restraint were the keys to surviving and thriving. In the final days, before the Void Heralds reached a critical threshold, Maya Patel addressed a grand assembly of species leaders in Earth's Global Quantum Forum. It appeared as a simple amphitheater outdoors under old oak trees, but each oak leaf was a transmitter bridging light years. The leaders tasted Earth's coffee and tea, admired simple wooden chairs, each a subtle lesson in balance. They compared notes on human artifacts discovered in their territories. We stand at a crossroads, Maya said. Humanity was once as blind as any of you, maybe more so. We sought ultimate power and found only despair. Today we offer guidance, so you never repeat our mistakes. The Void Heralds expect fear and reverence. Instead, we answer with understanding and refusal to submit. On distant worlds, people listened, inspired by this ancient species' humility and clarity. Humans didn't demand submission or tribute, they offered mentorship. They didn't flaunt their ancient fleets. They allowed younger races to see their hidden strength only to illustrate a point. When the Void Heralds finally arrived, they found not a scattered galaxy of fearful civilizations eager for a shortcut to glory. They found a united tapestry of species, who now saw technology as a tool, not a crutch, and perfection as a sterile prison, not an ideal. The Heralds tried their usual tactic, crystallizing a star system into perfection. But this time, the affected system's inhabitants, prepared by humanity's lessons, understood what was happening. They combined their newly gained wisdom, using not mighty weapons, but strategic illusions and subtle manipulations of underlying physics they had learned from Earth's simplest demonstrations. They confused the heralds by introducing randomness, guided chaos derived from humanity's ancient, primitive, machines. Without stable ground to enforce their crystalline order, the herald's influence faltered. The universe, inspired by humanity's perspective, refused to be locked into stasis. Human observers watched quietly, intervening only when necessary, always choosing the minimal action with maximal teaching value. In time, the heralds withdrew, unable to comprehend why their offer of perfection was declined, or how lesser species wielded chaos as a shield. When it was over, Dr. Chen and Ambassador Relon stood side by side, staring at a galaxy subtly transformed. Old rivalries softened. Civilizations embraced an ethos of understanding rather than escalation. In corners of the galaxy once plagued by war, peace sprouted not from treaties, but from shared realizations. Relon turned to Chen. Humanity succeeded where no empire could have, shaping the moral architecture of the galaxy without imposing it. You risked so much, why? Chen's eyes were distant, reflecting epochs of pain and perseverance. Because after nearly destroying ourselves, we vowed never to dominate again. We prefer to teach, to stand behind a curtain of humility so that lessons are learned, not forced. The galaxy needed not just knowledge, but the hardest lesson of all, that the greatest achievement is knowing when to lay power aside. Tekler, her mind brimming with new insights, added softly, "The Council will have to revise all our doctrines. We've always measured civilizations by their technological might. Now we must measure them by their wisdom. Are we ready for that shift?" Dr. Martinez chuckled kindly. "You must be. The cosmos is vast, and new challenges always arise. With understanding and patience, you can guide others in turn, as we guided you. This is the cycle of growth." In the years that followed, Earth revealed more of its carefully maintained anachronisms. Other species visited to learn why steam engines, coal plants, and combustion engines coexisted beside quantum dream forges and space-time anchors. They found that each primitive device contained metaphors and encoded lessons, forging empathy, restraint, and perspective. Gradually, the galaxy changed. The Council debated less about who had the strongest fleet and more about who showed the greatest temperance. Diplomats traveled between stars carrying not just treaties, but parables and demonstrations taken from Earth's archives. The concept that power is hollow without humility took root in young minds across countless worlds. Humanity stepped fully into the galactic spotlight, not as kings or sages, but as guides who knew intimately the cost of unchecked ambition. If any dared to question their authority, humans showed no force, only a willing transparency. Here are our archives, here are mistakes, learn from them. No secret hovered beyond inquiry. The taboo on revealing their ancient history faded, replaced by a willingness to help others avoid old pitfalls. And the galaxy prospered. Threats like the Void Heralds, once insurmountable, found themselves outmaneuvered by civilizations united in principle. Without firing a single doomsday weapon, humanity taught the galaxy to transcend fear and reject hollow perfection. One evening, Dr. Chen and Ambassador Relon shared a quiet moment on a hillside overlooking an Earth city. The skyline flickered with lights powered by solar panels and wind turbines, technologies centuries old but chosen for their simplicity and sustainability. No antimatter reactors, no zero-point nodes here. Just humans living peacefully, forever reminding themselves of what they could have been if they forgot their lesson. "It's beautiful," Relon said, watching a tram clatter down a street. So simple compared to your hidden wonders. Simple, Chen agreed, and meaningful. Once we embraced complexity without wisdom, we had to rediscover meaning in the simplest things. That's why Earth remains a tapestry of old and new, to ensure we never forget. Rellen's scales shimmered a soft turquoise of deep respect. We won't forget either. Thanks to you, we understand that the hardest lesson isn't how to harness power, but how not to. We will carry this lesson home and share it. Chen smiled, content. Then we have succeeded. True progress lies not in trouncing enemies with superior force, but in ensuring no one needs to. In that moment, the breeze carried faint laughter from the city below, children playing under lamplight, oblivious to the cosmic drama. Humanity had saved itself long ago, and now saved countless others, not through domination, but through choosing imperfection, balance, and self-restraint. The galaxy, once a grand stage for inevitable conflicts, now glowed with the promise of civilizations working not to outdo one another, but to uplift. And as the void receded, and the once threatening darkness faded into memory, everyone who witnessed these events understood that they had learned the hardest lesson of all, taught not by conquerors or mighty fleets, but by a species humble enough to pretend weakness, and wise enough to embrace it. End.